I object.
The Reverend's voice was still settling over the room when Diana Hargrove stood up, not from the family pew. From the centre of the aisle, where she had already positioned herself, already on her feet, already holding the manila folder, already prepared in a way that told everyone watching she had not made this decision in the last 10 seconds. She had made it months ago. I object. Her voice was practiced, clear, built to carry across the hush of 200 people who had come here for a wedding and were now watching something else entirely. For a moment, no one moved. The Reverend's hand stilled on her Bible. A woman in the 4th row slowly covered her mouth. A man near the aisle set his program down carefully, like the sound might carry. The string quartet, bows poised, lowered them together without being asked. Then the silence cracked into something worse than noise. A ripple of murmurs. A sharp inhale near the front. 200 people shifting in their seats, and not a single one of them saying a word. Diana opened the folder. At the altar, Maya stood in her white flower girl dress, her basket of rose petals hanging from both hands. She was 6 years old, and she had no idea what was happening. She only knew the room had changed. She looked up at the woman pointing, her grandmother, in a black gown at her mother's wedding, and her face held a question no child should ever have to carry. Ethan's jaw locked. Every line in his face went rigid and still. Naomi did not move. Her bouquet rested in both hands. Her knuckles whitened slowly around the stems, but her face gave nothing away. Not a flicker. And at the very back of that room, the heavy oak doors swung open. The Vanderbilt Hotel, Newport, 7:14 in the morning, 6 hours before the ceremony. Naomi Carter sat at a vanity mirror in a white robe, her maid of honor Keisha working quietly on her hair. Behind them, Maya was spinning in circles in her flower girl dress, counting until she crashed sideways into the pillows. She announced it was absolutely a world record. Naomi laughed out loud, the first real laugh of the morning. She was 33. She had grown up in the Latrobe Homes housing project in East Baltimore. Her mother, Gloria, cleaned office buildings overnight 5 nights a week and made it to every single school event Naomi ever had. Not once did she miss one. Naomi was 14 when Gloria died of a heart attack at 44, a body worn down past the point of no return. Naomi did not collapse. She did not slow down. She decided that the only way to honor what her mother had built was to become something her mother never got to see. She applied to Johns Hopkins Medical School under her mother's maiden name, Carter, on merit alone. Full scholarship. She never told them who her father was, never asked him to open a single door. She needed to know that everything she had earned herself. 6 years in the pediatric emergency department at Mercy Hospital, Baltimore. 14-hour shifts. Children who arrived broken and left breathing. Children who didn't leave at all and whom she held anyway, because no child should be alone when it ends. She met Ethan Hargrove at a children's hospital charity auction 18 months ago. He was bidding on a painting he didn't want because the proceeds funded the pediatric ICU. She was the physician who'd written the grant that bought the equipment. They talked for 3 hours. He called the next morning. She told him about Maya on the second date. He asked when he could meet her on the third. She never told him about her father. That was deliberate. If he loved her knowing only what he could see, a doctor from Baltimore with a 6-year-old and a dented Honda, then she would know it was real. She reached into the velvet box on the vanity, a small military pin, her mother's, a gift from her father on their first anniversary. She tucked it inside the neckline of her dress. Maya stopped spinning. She looked at her mother in the mirror. "Mum, you look like a queen." Naomi's eyes filled. She blinked it back. "Go find your basket, baby. It's time." Diana Hargrove started making calls the same night Ethan called her from Naomi's parking lot. She had a private investigator on retainer within the week. The report came back 14 days later. 22 pages. Latrobe Homes Housing Project, East Baltimore. Single mother. No family assets, no notable connections. Father listed simply as James Carter, retired government service. The investigator couldn't find more than that. Diana assumed there was nothing more to find. She called Ethan 3 times that week. He didn't answer. She called again. He didn't answer. She drove to his apartment. He opened the door, made coffee, and sat across the table while she said everything she had rehearsed on the drive over. The marriage would damage the family's reputation. The woman had nothing. There was a child from another man. This was a mistake Ethan would spend years paying for. He listened to all of it. Then he said 4 words. "I'm going to propose." She tried other avenues. She called 2 of Ethan's business partners and suggested that a woman with no resources attaching herself to a Hargrove was a financial liability. One said he'd already met Naomi and found her impressive. The other stopped returning Diana's calls. She met Naomi exactly twice. The first meeting was dinner at a restaurant Diana chose specifically for its effect, a place with no menu prices and a staff trained to make outsiders feel small. Naomi ordered confidently, tipped 25%, and thanked the sommelier by name. Diana had no follow-up move. The second time was Ethan's apartment, unannounced. Maya was there. Diana spent 4 minutes with the child, and 20 telling Ethan privately that another man's daughter would complicate everything. Ethan walked her to the door. 3 months before the wedding, Diana sent Naomi a letter, cream paper, handwritten. She asked her, woman to woman, to walk away while she still could. She said she would make it worth Naomi's while. Naomi read it twice, folded it, placed it in her bedside drawer beside her mother's photograph. She never showed it to Ethan. Not to protect Diana, to protect herself, from the moment she might be tempted to use it. 2 weeks before the wedding, Diana's attorney drafted a document freezing Ethan's access to the Hargrove family trust, $4.8 million locked behind Diana's written consent. Ethan signed the marriage license that same afternoon. He called Diana that evening. His voice was quiet and final. "Come to the wedding as my mother or don't come at all. That is the only choice I'm giving you." Diana came, in a black gown. She arrived 40 minutes early, placed the manila folder in her handbag, and took her seat in the family pew. She was already in position before the processional music began. 200 people were waiting for a wedding. Diana was not. But she had absolutely no idea who else was already on his way. Diana opened the folder and read, "Public Housing Project, East Baltimore. Single mother. No family assets. Father listed as unknown." Then she said the word that made 3 people in the 5th row visibly flinch. "Pray." She said it like a diagnosis. A woman who had identified a man with a name and a future and made herself indispensable before he understood what was happening. Ethan stepped forward. "Sit down, Mum." Diana didn't look at him. Her finger extended toward Naomi. "You don't belong in this family. You never did. Every person in this room knows it. They simply don't have the courage to say what I'm saying out loud." Claire Hargrove in the 2nd row opened her mouth, then closed it. She would think about that for a long time afterward. Nobody else moved. Naomi stood through all of it, bouquet in both hands, shoulders back. When she spoke, her voice was level and clear, the voice of someone who had learned long ago that calm is its own kind of power. "Mrs. Hargrove, I graduated summa cum laude from Johns Hopkins. I have worked pediatric emergency for 6 years. I have never taken a dollar from your family, never asked anyone in this room for a single thing. I came here because your son loves me and I love him." Diana's smile was small and deliberate. "And yet here you stand being humiliated at your own wedding. Funny how that works." Ethan moved in front of Naomi. "We're done here." Then the footsteps began, from the very back of the room, slow, measured. 200 heads turned in unison. A man in a charcoal suit walked down the center aisle, 6'2", silver hair close cropped, a small American flag pin on his lapel. His face was entirely calm. His eyes were fixed on his daughter. He stopped directly beside Naomi. He cupped her face in both hands and kissed her forehead. One slow breath, the way a father tells his child, "I am here now. It is over." "You okay, baby girl?" Naomi's eyes filled for the first time all morning. She nodded. She couldn't speak. He turned to face Diana Hargrove. Recognition arrived in stages. The Newport Hospital Foundation Gala 2 years ago. The boardroom photograph of Dr. James Carter beside the Secretary of Health and Human Services. Then the grant letter. The one requesting an increase from $12.4 million to $15 million. 34% of Newport Children's Hospital's annual budget. Due in 18 days. Diana's folder slipped. She caught it. Barely. Dr. Carter didn't need to raise his voice. "Mrs. Hargrove, we have met before. 4 times. The Newport Hospital Gala, the Foundation Board dinner, the Secretary's Health Summit, and once when your office sent mine a letter requesting a $2.6 million grant increase." He paused. "You told my daughter she comes from nothing, that she has nothing to offer, that she doesn't belong." He reached into his jacket and removed a single folded document. He placed it on top of Diana's scattered pages. "That is her Johns Hopkins transcript. Summa cum laude. She never put my name on her application. She never asked me to open a single door. Everything she has she earned with her own hands." He looked down at Maya. Maya looked up at him. "Hi, sweetheart." "Hi, Grandpa James." 200 people exhaled. Diana's knees buckled. Her hand found the nearest pew. Her folder pages lay scattered across the white marble floor. The investigator's report, the grant application, all of it face up in the chandelier light. Ethan turned to Reverend Owens. "Whenever you're ready." Reverend Owens looked at the father, the bride, and the 6-year-old. Then she opened her Bible. "Dearly beloved, let's begin again." The ceremony resumed. Diana sat. Claire Hargrove, from the row directly behind her, leaned slowly forward and placed one hand on Diana's shoulder. Not in comfort, in warning. The gesture said what didn't need to be spoken. "You will not move again." Reverend Owens read from 1 Corinthians. Her voice was steady and unhurried. "Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things." She let it sit. Every word landed like something being returned to its rightful place. When Ethan spoke his vows, he didn't use the ones they had rehearsed. He looked at Naomi and said what he actually meant. "I knew it was real the night you told me about Maya and didn't wait to see how I'd react. I knew it was real when you said you didn't need anything from me except to be treated like what you are, the most capable, most decent person I have ever known. Naomi, I choose you today. I will choose you and Maya every single day for the rest of my life. Not because it's easy, because nothing real ever is." His voice cracked on a single word. Choose. He didn't try to hide it. 3 women in the second row cried openly. A man near the aisle pretended to study his wedding program. His hands weren't quite steady enough to make it convincing. Then it was time for the rings. Maya carried the small velvet pillow with both hands, walking with the slow and deliberate seriousness of a child who understood that what she held mattered. She delivered it to Ethan with her arms fully extended and her chin raised. He took the rings. He looked at her. "Thank you, Maya." She gave him one solemn nod. Then she stepped back into position and folded her hands in front of her, because that was clearly what the moment required. "I now pronounce you husband and wife." The room stood. Not politely, not gradually. All at once, 200 people rising to their feet before Reverend Owens had finished the sentence, applause filling the room from the marble floor up through the crystal chandeliers before Ethan and Naomi had even kissed. Dr. James Carter was first. He stood before anyone else in that room and applauded his daughter, both hands, no hesitation, with the full force of a man who had waited his entire life to watch her receive exactly what she deserved. Diana Hargrove did not stand. She sat in the family pew with her hands folded and watched Ethan and Naomi walk back down the aisle. She watched Maya skip between them, her empty flower basket swinging at her side. She watched everything she could have had walk right past her. and she did not make a sound. If this story is making you feel something right now, anger, pride, relief, hit that like button and leave a comment below. Because what happened next to Diana Hargrove was something no one in that room saw coming. Diana did not attend the reception that evening. She sat in her car in the parking structure for 52 minutes. Then she drove back to Newport alone. The following Monday morning, a formal letter arrived at the Newport Children's Hospital Foundation from the Carter Medical Foundation. 2 pages. Clear language. The grant relationship would not be renewed under the current board composition. $12.4 million, effective at the end of the current grant cycle. 2 board members called Diana before noon. They were not calling to offer support. By 3 o'clock, the executive committee had placed her board seat under formal review. They described it as procedural. It was not procedural. That same week, Ethan's business partner called him. 3 investors from the wedding had been asking about Naomi. They wanted to meet her. 2 of them had been in the 4th row when Diana opened the folder. They had watched every second of it. A photograph from the reception began circulating quietly that same evening. Dr. James Carter smiling at Maya holding her empty flower basket up toward him with both hands, her face still carrying that same serious expression she had worn all day. Someone posted it with a single line of text. She said she came from nothing. This is her father. The comments did not go the way Diana had spent 14 months imagining they would. 6 months later, Diana resigned from the Newport Children's Hospital Foundation Board, citing personal health reasons. 3 colleagues sent flower arrangements to the house. None of them called. None of them visited. She sent Ethan a handwritten letter. He didn't open it for 3 weeks. When he finally did, it contained 1 sentence. I was wrong. He showed it to Naomi. She read it twice. Then she folded it carefully and placed it in her bedside drawer, beside the letter Diana had sent her 14 months ago, asking her to walk away quietly. Not from bitterness, not from triumph, from the quiet understanding that some things are worth keeping, not as weapons, as proof. 8 months later, here is where everyone landed. Naomi was promoted to head of pediatric emergency at Newport Children's Hospital 7 months after the wedding. Her supervisor called it overdue by 2 years. The Carter Medical Foundation renewed its grant under new board leadership at $15 million. The full increase Diana had spent 3 weeks lobbying for delivered to a board that had replaced her. Ethan's firm crossed $180 million in assets under management. 3 of his 6 top investors had been guests at the wedding. Maya's 2nd grade class was given an assignment. Write 3 sentences about your family. She wrote, "My mum saves kids. My grandpa used to be the doctor for the whole country. My dad picked us. Her teacher framed it. Dr. James Carter picks Maya up from school every other Tuesday. They get ice cream at the same shop every week. He tells her stories about her grandmother Gloria, about the overnight shifts, about what real courage looks like when nobody is watching. He makes sure Maya knows where she comes from. Diana Hargrove sits in her Newport estate. The gala invitations have thinned. The door to her grandchild is not open. Whether it ever will be, that is entirely up to her." So here is my question. When Diana stood up in that aisle, 200 people heard every word. Most looked away. But if you had been there, what would you have done? Drop your answer in the comments. Subscribe, because more stories like this are coming every week.